This is the Lean Builders Hoots on the Ground podcast with absolutely, positively no bullshito. Join us as we dig into exactly what lean construction is and how we can use these concepts and strategies in the field. This podcast will be different as we journey to job sites and mine the minds of lean builders, all in effort to pass forward building knowledge from those who have put their time in to learn a better way. Because that's just what lean builders do. What's up, y'all? Adam Hoots here, the lean builder, Hoots on the ground with no bullshito. And today we got Mr. Joe Pryor with us, and I am so excited to dive in. Joe, I'm just going to go ahead and hit you with the first question, which I just love all the time. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Joe Pryor?
First and foremost, I've been in the construction industry since I was a kid, honestly. We'll say since I was 13 or so, grew up in my family's masonry business, commercial masonry, Saturday, Sunday, and even throughout high school when I was playing sports and everything. It was go to sports in the morning, and then after school, it was hit the job site, clean it up, do whatever. I actually had my forklift license before a driver's license. Uh, Yeah, construction's the only job I've ever had. Luckily, I was born with a passion for it. And yeah, so did that growing up. Went to college, was blessed with a athletic scholarship, did that. And it was a blessing in disguise. But my junior year of college, tore my knee in football. And I think 3 days after surgery, I got a call for an internship for a GC coming to the other side of the fence since I was a trade partner. And I've been here ever since for the last 13 years. And yeah, really enjoyed it. It's different. And then that kind of brought me into my lean journey was growing up in the industry in the early 2000s and everything like that. I was used to the yelling and the cussing and everything like that. And I was a trade partner and I always knew I wanted to come to the GC side. And once I made that decision to come to the GC side, I found lean and the early days of lean on construction anyways, and decided that that's the way I want to run my jobs when I get to that level to run jobs is just that ultimate respect for people, working as a team, and being a guy that grew up in sports. Team atmosphere is where I thrive, holding everybody accountable, and just that team atmosphere with everybody is really where my lean journey started.
Yeah, I love it. And I want to dive in more there, but I'm still I'm fixed on the masonry business. Can you show me your forearms? Do you have
They're a little bit smaller now, but yeah, I don't think I ever lifted weights in high school or college. I just threw up 12-inch CMUs and fully grouted cells on those. So
Yeah, I want to hear more about that learning journey though. So take me through 13-year-old Joe on the job site cleaning to figuring out how to install brick, mix mud. Take me through that journey a little bit.
yeah, I grew up and it's my family's business. So it was my grandfather, my dad, and my uncle when I was there. But technically, I'm a sixth generation Mason. My family great grandfather started masonry back in the early 1900s and grown there. And but my journey through it was more just teaching the discipline in life. Really is how my grandfather and dad made me do it. When I'm 13, picking up wall ties underneath scaffold and stuff. And my grandfather used to give me crap. He'd say, "That's your inheritance. Those are 13 cents a piece. You collect a 5 gallon bucket of that. I'll give you $20 or something like that." And so it was that getting that drive and everything like that, but also teaching the value of a dollar, especially when it's a family owned business. But started off doing that. And then as I got a little bit older, I was like, you know what? Being a kid, 13, 14, 15, as a guy like we are, you're so excited to start driving and everything like that. And I was like, man, I want to go drive the forklift. That looks easy, sitting in the forklift all day. And turns out, no, that's probably one of the hardest jobs on the job site because it's not just driving the forklift. It's making the mortar, it's making the grout, it's getting the bricks and making sure those guys that are actually laying the bricks are constantly having the materials that they need there. And you're also the first one on the job site because the mason's job might start at 7 o'clock in the morning, but I'm there at 6 a.m. making the mud and making sure the scaffold's all prepped out and ready to go. Then from there, just spent extra weekends with the family and learning firsthand from my grandfather, dad, and uncle, just laying brick, laying block, going into stone, doing all those things. And at the time, it was all obviously you're a punk kid and you're like, man, I don't like doing this. I know everything, blah, blah, blah. And now that I'm older and looking back, I'm so thankful for just the way they raised me and doing that. And but just it makes me have more respect now that I'm a GC and I'm the superintendent on the job site and I see the guy out there hanging drywall or laying brick or actually doing the work. I have so much more respect for those guys and actually ask them questions, try to get to know them, not just their superintendent or the foreman for the trade.
Yeah. Why do you think that's important?
We're all just here to do a job. You hope everybody that's on your job site has a passion for it. It's a dying industry and you want to keep that passion going, and especially all the studies by 20, 35, 40% of the experienced workforce is going to retire and there's like 2% that's going to replace them. So I really try to invest in everybody on my job sites, whether it's a 2 minute conversation, hey, how's your day going, or getting to know them over time. Hopefully, it's a longer project, a year long project. Those are the ones where I really get to know the guys out in the field.
Yeah, I like that. I think there's a couple of things to note. One, I've heard stats anywhere from 5 to 10 people leave with one person coming into the industry. So that speaks to exactly what you're saying. The other thing you're making me think of is I sat through one of the lean builder trainings last year, and I actually stole one of Joe Donnarumo's lines. And it was, when is the last time you had a master mason on your project? However, I delivered that to Consigli in Boston, who has dozens of master masons. So I had to quickly audible to electricians. But name your trade here, they're all suffering for people. And I guess what do you think the driving force behind the worker shortage is, and how would you go about solving it?
Man, solving it's a hard part. I think the main issue stems back to the early 80s of schools and everything pushing that you have to go to college, you have to go get a degree, and but really put a hindrance on any of the blue collar kind of work, anything construction, anything manual labor. All these kids are chasing after money and everything. Sorry, there's a boom lift outside my office.
I love it. I've said it before, man. It makes it real. Like you're on a job. We're talking like this is how we operate. This is normal mode of operation. So don't worry about it. In fact, thank you for bringing job site noises to my ears. I
Yeah,
love it.
of course, it's not Bluetooth. I can open the window if you need me to. So we're working today. But yeah, I think it stems back from that and all these kids thinking you have to have a degree to make a great salary and everything like that. But not understanding that a guy that goes to trade school while he's getting school in a trade is getting paid that 4 years or so that another person's in college not getting paid and not learning near enough experience. And the way I always looked at it, the first day I went to college, if I didn't have an athletic scholarship, I probably wouldn't have gone to college. But the first day I went to my construction materials and methods class, my professor goes, okay, over the next 4 years, you're going to learn about this much from me. And then your first 30 days on an actual job site, you're going to learn about this much. It was like, I'm just saying, you don't need college if you're going to this. He was like, it does have its plus and minuses, but the real thing I've seen is the guys that go to college instead of trade school, like we're seeing a massive influx of GCs, superintendents, PMs for GCs because everybody's going to school, but it's putting a real hindrance on the guys that actually do the trade school. Um, as far as solving it, man, I don't know. I think it's just getting the word out, trying to go to local high schools for a speaking seminar or something like that. I know down here in Dallas, we have TEXO. It's a construction foundation that teaches safety, quality, all those kind of things. But they also do a competition every year for colleges and high school students. Basically, like a 3 day competition, giving those guys a set of plans and say, okay, go make a schedule, go make an estimate, and let's go. And basically, like you're bidding the job. That's a really good lesson for those kids that do that too.
I love that. NCCR has a program too. I think they call it like construction career pathways or something along that line, where you can actually go to their website and they've got speakers listed on one side and schools that need speakers listed on the other side. So they're trying to like connect the two.
Yeah,
Miss Patty Steffen, who hangs out with us old dogs from time to time, she's very involved there. And yeah, I think that's a huge part, right? Like just educate the children options available. Shout out to Miss Katie Wiggs at SC Career Kids because she's doing that at the pre-K level.
that's
She is
awesome.
she's teaching kids and she's taking guest speakers too, or what does she call them? Career guidance or something along those lines for her little apprentices
Yeah.
because she's just educating them on, hey, you can be a contractor, you can be an electrician, a plumber, a
Mhm.
veterinarian, like whatever that career is that speaks to you loud and clear, instead of just trying to like firefighter or doctor or lawyer, like the four or five well-known careers. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love.
I think even bringing back little things like take your kid to work day. My company did that for the first time this year here at Rooted Construction, and man, it was so awesome. Just we had kids from 2 years old all the way up to 14 or 15. They
Nice.
came in and we spent a half day with them at the office, and they got to see our estimators, they got to see our pre-con team, they got to see our CEO, and then the second half of the day was like, okay, let's go to a job site. Got them little hard hats, safety vests, and like, here's what dad does or mom does every day on the job site. And man, just seeing that fire in some of those kids light up and just realize that like, okay, if you want to be a doctor, go be a doctor. There's other options out there that are enjoyable. It's the only profession I get to wear jeans every day to work, a hoodie if I want to wear a hoodie, a hat if I want to wear a hat, and just be comfy and enjoy the work.
Yeah. So I want to hear more about that day. Who did you bring? What did you do? What did they learn? I have so many questions right now.
So I've got two daughters. I've got a 4 year old and a 2 year old. Brought my two daughters there. We actually did a in the office part, as I mentioned, we did like an estimating playtime for them, and we had Legos out. Red bricks were worth $10. These were worth $5, and gave them a little monopoly money, and was like, okay, you got to here's the amount of money you get. Let's buy out the job, and then take them to the job site and walk them around. Of course, we got to take them to one of our bigger sites with a 650-ton crane out there lifting tilt panels. So that was pretty cool. And then at the end of the day, lined up some of the equipment like skid steers, forklifts, John Deeres, all those, and took the keys out. We were safe, let them sit in it, and just enjoy that funness. A bunch of kids, they love any kind of equipment like that. So yeah,
Nice.
it was a great day. I'm really thankful my company did that.
Yeah, have has it had any impact on them or what kind of impact have you seen on them?
My girls, being as young as they are, they're just more, we want to go see the crane. We want to go see a skid steer excavator. You know, I've got a 4 year old daughter who knows like the difference between a skid steer and a bobcat or a excavator and a trencher. And she's like, that's a trencher, that's an excavator. So just seeing those kind of things is cool. And then when we read books to her at night before going to bed, she's like, I want my construction book. And like, man, that's awesome. I love that. And just feedback from some of the other people that brought a little bit older kids. They really enjoyed it too, getting to see what daddy or mommy does to provide for their family and everything like that. And see that it's, I won't say lackadaisical in the field or anything like that, but just relaxed. Like I said, you're in jeans, you're in a hat, you're having fun, saying hi to everybody, getting to do some really cool things and build some really cool things.
Yeah, so I love that. That to me is culture. That is something that you did that encouraged you to be a little vulnerable with the people you work with. If you're going to bring your children into work, like that's there is nothing more vulnerable than that, in my opinion, because that's what you're raising, that's what you're investing in. Like you are, that
Mhm.
is you in 20 years. I
Yeah.
guess what other things like that does Rudick do to just promote a healthy place to work, like a good environment?
Culturally, we have a culture committee that meets once a month. It's some of our key players here at the company that we're a growing company. When I came here 3 years ago, I think we had 18 or so employees. And over the last 3 years, we've grown to having an IT department, three offices, about to start a fourth one, and close to 120 employees now. And we don't want to lose sight of that small family feel. So we really invest in our culture here and do different things, whether it's like a monthly happy hour just down at the office or something like that, just to talk to one another. I really value on my job sites equally sharing time. We work a lot of hours in the field, and I'm vice president of field operations, but I'm out in the field today just to help this team out. And I think culturally that helps a lot of our younger guys or less experienced guys seeing their vice president out on the field with them. Because I know some of the companies I came from in the past, which were a lot bigger companies, I wouldn't see my CEO or VP for 6 months, maybe once a year for the company meeting. But culturally, too, we really value our superintendents. We value everybody, but superintendents are one of the hardest things to find in this market and in this industry as of right now. And we try to really take care of those guys and take them on an annual fishing trip or a hunting trip, something to just let our superintendents bond, bounce ideas off each other. And we do a monthly call every first Monday of every month, just call it our superintendent forum, and it's just all our superintendents and hey, let's bounce ideas. What problems do you have on your job site? How can I help fix that? Or what's going on in your life and everything. Just to hang out if it's too hard, if we're too spread out to meet in person. But yeah, we do a lot of great things and really value the culture here at Rudick.
Yeah, I love that. How would you describe that culture? What does that feel like?
Man, how can I describe it in one word? I don't want to be typical and say it's like a family, but it is.
Throw things at each other? Is that
Yeah, that definitely happens. It is construction. It is construction, but I'll say it's like a brotherly love, like a big brother and little brother kind of thing. I don't have any brothers, but that's the way it feels. It is a really a team atmosphere. We hold everybody accountable, and this company's fairly young. We've got some employees that, in their 40s, 50s, but most of our employees are between the ages of 40 and 25. And so everybody's riding that about to start hitting their prime in their work experience. And so everybody's got to drive, everybody's hungry, everybody wants to do good. And so it's, I think, a big reason our company's grown so much is just everybody wants to do good, everybody's invested and keep going. And so that's part of the hard part about the culture, too, is as we bring in more people, just instilling that in them and making sure they have those qualities as well.
Yeah, how do you do that?
It's a tough one for sure. When I interview guys, the first thing I always ask is tell me about yourself, tell me about your family. I don't care about your work experience. That's not the first question I ever ask when I interview somebody. I like to find similar topics to talk on. And if that hour long interview turns into 45 minutes of that kind of conversation and 15 minutes of actual work, then that's a good interview to me and where I'm more comfortable interviewing people. I'm a people person. We only got one of these lives. Why treat people bad and questioning everything? My wife and I actually just finished watching Ted Lasso, and I forget the quote he says, but it's be curious, not judgmental,
Mm.
is a quote he says in that show. And so I try to think that way when I'm interviewing somebody or just getting to know somebody is be curious, don't be judgmental towards their answers. Try to get to know them.
Yeah, so we're all humans, right? I would imagine sometimes that balance or evenness is hard to do. Like how do when you start feeling yourself maybe getting a little judgmental, how do you like pull that back and allow yourself to reset in the moment?
Yeah, it's a tough thing for me. I just kind of, if I sense that I'm being judgmental, I might, depending what the question was, I might apologize and say, I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm just trying to understand why this is coming. If I interview somebody I look at their resume and it says they've been at 6 different companies over the last 7 years, I might ask that. I'm not being judgmental. I'm just like, maybe there's a backstory there, like something was going on in personal life or just wasn't the right fit. Let me know those kind of things. Because if you're just looking at that on paper, you might be judgmental and go, oh, this guy can't stay anywhere for more than a year.
Yeah, I like that. Finding the context clues and even just you just said, "Hey, calling yourself out." I love that, man. "Hey, stop it, Joe. Stop it, Hoots. Stop being judgmental and get your butt back. Sorry for that. Let me get my head cleared." That is, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, having that humility is definitely a tough battle internally for, I think, everybody.
Yeah, in fact, so last week I started teaching at Clemson again, co-instructing with Tom Fuderick, and we're teaching high performing teams. And our trust breaking exercise was tell us something that you can't find on your LinkedIn. And so I was thinking, and I got started introducing myself, and then I just dropped the kidney transplant. I was like, oh yeah, that's good. That's enough. And I'll be danged if one of the gals, Maduri, came up to me after the class and she goes, "Hey Adam, I just looked at your LinkedIn profile and it says kidney transplant survivor on there." And she like called me out, and
Yeah.
like it was uncomfortable a little bit, but after I was like, you know what, you're right, like I failed you, let me think about it, and let me so I actually owe her today. I'm glad we're saying this, I'm gonna have to write that down. I owe her a response to something that is not on my LinkedIn profile, but I loved it because again, she's an international student, and where she comes from, the environment for women to speak up, it's not a great environment for women to speak up. And so
Right.
for her to speak up and call me out like that, dude, I celebrated the heck out of that, man. That was a really cool moment.
When
Uh,
you need those kind of people in your life, whether it's a friend or just a student, to call you out every now and then, bring you back down to earth, and humble yourself a little bit. So that's awesome.
yeah, that's 100% right. And I think that's a hard thing to do, is to have people around you that hold up a mirror to your bad side. I think this is one of the realizations I've had over the last 4 months is I've kept a lot of people around me that would like hold a mirror up, sure, but they would hold a mirror up in the angle that I wanted them to. Nah, not right there. Can you move 2 steps to the right and do this? And
Yeah.
then oh yeah, I can't see all those problems now. But you're exactly right. They say you're the sum of the five closest people you spend time with. And there's so much truth there. Man, I'm loving this. Tell me this. What things are you super passionate about? What drives you?
Man, just speaking in construction, like I said, it's the only thing I've ever done. And just that passion, a little bit of pride, like my family name and everything, like it's what all the males in my family have done. And I feel like it's in my blood. It gives me a passion. Yeah, there's tough days, there's hard days. And some days I'm like, man, do I really want to do this? But I know in the two times that I've changed companies before coming to Rudick, took a month off and was like, man, is that really what I want to do? And I always come back to it. And I'm a busybody, even when I'm home, like I'm building something in my shop or doing something around the house. I just have a passion for construction. I was that kid that always played with Legos like 24/7. I had the big old 5 gallon jugs of Legos growing up, and I just always knew this is what I wanted to do. And then that's evolved now as I've grown to this new role with my company of I really found a passion for teaching, which is funny because my mom and sisters are teachers. And so just really teaching guys about construction and about life principles that I have and if it might help them has really become my passion. And then thankfully coming to this company, they didn't really have a lean construction culture. And Clay Rudick, our owner, let me run with that. And I was like, you know what? Your first job that you do with us, why don't you run this lean culture that you talk about? And if it works out, we'll implement it across the company. And here we are 3 years later. And prior to this VP role, I was the director of lean construction for our company and just really teaching the guys out in the field what lean's all about and ultimately that respect for people. And I think last time we talked, I think teaching the fundamentals of lean, like the boards and everything like that, that's 25% of the battle. The other 75% is the cultural part, and that's the hard part. Not necessarily for like us, but getting that out to the trade partners, especially the ones that haven't done it before. And one of the most rewarding things for me is when I'm on a job site and say we're 6 months in and you've got that hard head that doesn't really see the benefit of lean. And then you see that light bulb click in a daily huddle one morning and they're like, okay, now I get it. Now I get it. This makes a lot more sense. I don't know why I wasn't seeing it this way. And I've had 2 or 3 guys over past projects that were that guy. And then I was lucky enough to have them on another one and they're the next guy up. First one leading and doing the daily huddles and like running the meeting for me. I'm like, man, see, that's what it's about. I love that. I love that passion that I see in that. And it's not even like young guys, it's guys that have been in the industry for 40 something years or 35 years that I'm seeing that light bulb click. And they're like, man, the way they're doing it still works. They're getting the job done and on time and budget. But they're like, man, it could have been so much more peaceful or just enjoyable going through that. And so those have been my passions as far as the industry is related. And then personal passions is just being a father and a husband. Being a guy, I always wanted a boy, but I'm a girl dad all the way. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. Love going to daddy daughter dances and everything like that. And yeah, that's my passion in life right now is just being the best husband and best father I can be.
That's amazing. I love it because I was getting ready to hit you with like, all right, let's leave construction alone for a minute,
Yeah.
Mr. Pryor. But you just nailed it, man. So how many times have you had your nails painted? That's what I want to know.
Imaginary, because I'm still manly man sometimes. Imaginary, I like almost every night. I play doctor a lot of the time. My girl's favorite things is like playing, they call it like tired monster or tickle monster, just chasing them around. All those
That's
things, love it. They're really into the show Bluey. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's
mm,
like from Australia. And so, like, my 4 year old randomly will have an Australian accent sometimes. And we're from Texas. I've got a Southern draw, and so like Southern draw and Australian kind of don't mix, but it's hilarious. I love it so much. But yeah, only had nails painted like actually twice, I think. But getting the nail polish remover out by Monday morning before I come to work.
absolutely. The clear polish was always the best for me,
Oh
man.
yeah, oh yeah.
The daddy daughter dances were so much fun. We used to have dance parties on the bed, just like going crazy, man. That's life is so good. That's awesome. So, tell me this: like, you're teaching lean on construction sites to big, burly men, primarily, right? Some women there as well. But how do you take these principles to the house with you? Like, how do you take them home to implement them?
It's that respect, and my wife is a teacher too, and just trying to teach some of the aspects of I hate writing speeches. If I'm ever giving a speech, I can't follow a speech. I'm always looking up down. I'm a very like bullet point kind of guy. Give me like just a little expert, and I can talk freely anytime. It's like this podcast. Like I have no notes. I'm just free going. That's where I feel like I do the best. And but taking those principles home, just respect, not only with my family, but with my friends as well. Valuing time and input, not just me as the leader of my household or the leader of my job site. Like it's what I say goes thing, valuing that input from my wife or from friends, whatever the situation is. Really just honing in on those things is doing it. And as we have growing kids and everything, schedules get hectic in personal life. And so then I take my scheduling from construction. I'm like, okay, let's sit down. Here we're going to do a little mini pool plan as a family. Okay, here's the 20 activities we got this month that we got to hit. Okay, let's set it out. Perfect world, here it is. But okay, that week's coming up that we have a big something, and let's say I have a meeting pop up at that same time. Okay, rearrange the pool plan then. Here's second way to go around it. So yeah, those are some of the principles that I've taken home with me just from lean and construction and everything.
Yeah, is there anything that you wish you could take home that you haven't yet?
That's a good question. I don't really think there is. It's a little different running 60 to 100 guys on a job site versus running my wife and two kids is a little different. Yeah, it's harder on the job sites. I've got to be stern but respectful, but kind of family too. I have to be stern and respectful. I usually don't have a problem with the respectful part, sternness, whether I'm tired or just, okay, yeah, whatever, let's just go do it. And instead of putting my foot down sometimes when I need to, but in a respectful way in personal life. Maybe that's something I could be a little bit better at instead of just being a yes man at home sometimes.
Yeah, so I struggle sometimes at the house of just having patience, man. Like we're in the job site all day making calls, boom, boom, get this done, that done. And when I come home, I find myself doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I asked Bob Emiliani on actually, it's probably two podcasts out that's going to come out on the Lean Builder. I asked him, I said, how do you apply lean at home? And he actually referenced me to one of his books called Kaizen Forever. And he told me, and it's actually written in there, and there's a whole like page on it. And basically, to summarize the page, Mr. Nikau, who was like number two to Ono back in the day,
Hmm.
he said, don't. He said, when you go home, don't practice Kaizen, don't do lean things, like just be at home. And that again, that struck me, even though I've got 18 marker boards, a calendar, and daily meetings with like we do those things too. And I've been trying to back off, man, but it's like I don't know. It's very hard to do. In fact, when I say the word lean around my house, I get or
Here we go. Here we go.
yeah, you seem like you may have heard that before.
Yeah, I've heard it. I do think now that you bring it up, patience is definitely one. Like I said, with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, life is crazy and hectic sometimes and needy. So I definitely think patience is one of those things. But along the lines of what you're saying, I think one of the hardest things for people in our industry to do is learn to turn that light switch off when you leave the job site. Especially, I know a lot of superintendents, whether it's for a trade or on the GC side, turning that light switch off is, man, it's tough. And I'd like to say most days I do a pretty good job at it, but the drive home, I try to turn it off there and not think about it. Listen to a podcast or a sermon or something like that, and then when I get home, I'm usually pretty good about not thinking about it. But man, it's always for most guys that I talk to, it's always the second your head hits the pillow and you're actually able to sit still and calm that the brain gears start going again about the next day and everything like that, instead of just being present at home, whether it's with your family or even if you're by yourself, just being present of that time away from.
Yeah, I've you probably caught the last couple of podcasts, but I read The Power of Now, and that book talks a lot about being in the present. Like literally, your past isn't real, the future isn't real. All you have is this moment. And that book has really changed my life. So I finished it about a week and a half ago, but I started practicing what he talks about, just being like so in the moment that you can hear the sounds around you.
Yeah.
And when I did that at home, like my relationships changed. It's so hard to explain, but just like being in the moment, listening, hanging on every single word that my wife or my kids say, like I was able to find exactly what they were after, even though the words didn't match the intention.
Hmm.
Uh, I was able to ask clarifying questions to get their words to merge with their intentions. And it's a game changer. It is such a game changer to be present. And one of the parts in that book is you are not your mind. So when you talking about you lay down at night and you have all these thoughts coming through your mind, it's like you have the ability to control that, to
Right.
turn them off. As soon as that thought comes in, just kick it out, right? Get rid of it. You can do that. So you are not your thoughts. And I believe most humans will never get to that point where they just roll with their mind and they
Right.
think that is who they are.
Hmm.
When in reality, it's not even close.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a difficult thing. That's why I enjoyed your podcast on mental health so much. Is just those are some of the things you got to talk about with our industry that just don't get talked about enough. Is turning off that light switch when you leave the job site.
And you were a part of one of those podcasts. We call it the lost episode. And I would love for folks to go find it. You could probably find it on YouTube under Construction Egg Solutions, maybe a post from Joe back in the day. We'll have to resurrect that one. That one got some great airwaves. And it's like you were real in that one, man. Like you opened up big time. Like I am very appreciative of that. I would highly recommend folks go tune into that. What of that podcast do you think is worthy of spilling into this one?
We just talked about it a little bit, but I think just that it's so hard in this industry, and it's especially for field guys and gals, is just the hours you work, the stress that's there. I think we talked about in the last podcast just how the industry's broken all the way from the top down. It's not like it was back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, where architect or owner would call a architect, say, "Hey, I'll give you a year and a half, design these prints, design this building. Okay, GC, now you've got whatever a year, 6 months to build this." And there was only maybe two RFIs for the whole project versus now where everything's so much faster and these clients are like, "Hey, Mr. Architect, I want you to build that exact same building, but you've only got 3 months to come up with drawings, and it's not even a full set of drawings. It's just give me whatever I need to get a permit
Yeah.
and then immediately get a GC out there." And next thing, there's 150 RFIs out there just because the drawings aren't finished. And I'm not blaming architects. It, like I said, it comes all the way from the top down from a client. And it just makes the job so much more stressful, but also why you need lean on the job sites of there's so much chaos between owner architect GCs trade partner with schedules and budget and everything in today's industry that you gotta work as a team or else you're gonna fail from the start. Not just the GC failing and the trade failing, but the architect's going to fail. The client's not going to be happy. You got to set those realistic expectations from the get go with the owner and architect and everything like that. That's our job as the GC is set those realistic expectations, and it comes back full circle of you've got to have the experienced guys in the field that know what they're talking about, not just being a yes man telling an owner or architect respectfully, you know what? No, there's no way this can happen in 3 weeks or whatever. It's going to take a full 6 weeks to do this, and explaining to them that, look, here's why it's going to take this. On paper, it might look like it's 3 weeks, but you're not looking at the logistics. You're not looking at the material arrival dates. You're not looking at anything like that of why this is going to take that long, and just setting real expectations there. And then, like I said, just if things do go sideways on a project, learning to turn that light switch off. It's so tough. I still struggle with it after 13 years of being in the industry professionally. But it's one of those things that, like you said, I don't think you ever fully can get there. Doing the best you can every day and hoping you get a little bit better at getting rid of it.
Yeah, something's really bothering me about turning the light switch off. That phrase, I don't know why, but it's just, I don't think that's possible. I don't think you can just turn it off when you leave and turn it on when you get there. It's almost like it's an emergency light, right? Like it's
Right.
always on until you kill the power to the building. And it just makes me wonder. We talk about being yourself inside and outside the gate a lot. And I can tell you again, just from my own self, like I am not the same person inside the gate as I am outside the gate. I feel like I'm a better person inside the gate than I am outside the gate. And that's been a self realization that I have been working on
Hmm.
personally, almost like it's a mind shift, right? I've recognized a broken system and I know the best way to fix a broken system from Donella Meadows and thinking in systems is by making a paradigm shift, changing the way you see the world. And
Yeah.
so you mentioned we're living in a broken system in construction. It's a vicious system. It doesn't have the right feedback, doesn't have the right reinforcing or balancing loops. And we're spiraling out of control all over the place and we're harming people. What are the mind shifts that you think are necessary, like the paradigm shift? Like, how are we going to look at construction different in order to take this system from being vicious into a virtuous?
Yeah, I think for me, the easiest way to attack it is starting from the bottom. Like I said earlier, talking to the guys that are actually doing the work, building the culture on that specific job site first. And then one of the big things I do with our lean culture is like our daily huddles. If that project has a client that's on site, I'm like, come on to the daily huddle, come to the pool plan, sit in these meetings with me, see how our culture is, and get their buy in. I think it's one of my gotcha things, but like one of my favorite things is our constraint board. And as my trades are writing down, and it's like the last thing on there is I need this RFI back from the architect, and the architect sees that on our owner meeting when they come to the trailer, and that's the only thing left on there. I'm like, come on, guys, keep chugging along. Like you see your piece in this cog wheel that we got going on here, and why we need your help and support. And I've worked with a lot of great architects that have seen the benefits of that too. And now, as we're doing buyout on a new job, before we even started, they're asking like, okay, are you guys going to be running lean on this job or anything like that? And so it's really good with some of our repeat clients that really look forward to working with us just because of that cultural shift that starts at the bottom. And same thing for our trade partners. We like to work with same trade partners. We like new ones too, but those guys that I've built relationships with, there's nothing better than spending 6 months to a year on a project, and you've got your crew of electricians or drywall guys, and finish that job, go do another one, and then you come back and do another one, and just, hey, I had you out on this job before, and just that mutual friendship that's there and respect for one another, doing the work. But I think the other part of that too is just everybody trying to understand that like we're all human, we're all here to either provide for our families, provide for ourselves, or have a passion for doing this. And where does cussing, fighting, yelling get you on the job site? Not really anywhere. Yeah, you've still got to have those stern conversations, but you can have those stern conversations in a respectful way. Not saying I don't get in those arguments every now and then, but I try my best to reel myself back in. And if I do have those kind of arguments on a job site, I always make sure that I let them cool down and then afterwards go find them and apologize and tell them that's not me. This job's been super stressful. I'm sorry. What can we do? Tell me all your problems and how can I help you on them?
Yeah, you make me think of the last time I got into that scenario. I was on a job site and I had an electrician that would not break down the work. It was the underground work, and I was like, "How long is it going to take you?" 6 weeks. Okay. What are you going to do the first week? I'm going to dig, put in conduit, and backfill.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
okay. What are you going to do in the second week? Dig, put in conduit. I was like, okay. What are the zones? Nope. 6 weeks. Like one zone, 6 weeks. And
Yeah.
finally, I was just like, this ain't going to work. You guys have to break your work down. I don't understand what the problem is. And I got fired up, man. Like,
Oh, yeah.
probably more than I should have, especially since I was just a coach on the project. And so I waited about 4 or 5 hours and had lunch and calmed down, and I walked over to their field office, and I walked in and I was like, "Hey guys, I just want you to know I'm sorry. I shouldn't have spoke to you that way." And as I was in the middle of apologizing, I realized that they're all in that field office trying to figure out or quantify the amount of work that they had to do in that area. So the reason that they couldn't give me the answers is because they didn't know. And they didn't feel comfortable saying, I don't know. And that's an indicator of a few different issues there. I'm curious, like, you- when's the last time you got a little fired up and you probably shouldn't?
Man, I think the one I'm out on right now, I won't share the project or anything like that, but it's been a tough project for us. It's a really tough client. It's gone on an extra 4 or 5 months longer than this project originally was scheduled to. And everybody's just fed up. And I'm here. We didn't really do a good job of running lean culture here on this project. And, I'm stepping in, helping this team and trying to implement those things when really we've only got maybe 3 or 4 weeks left of finishing this project. But all our trades, the owner, the client, us, we're all just fed up and with it. And I've been getting in a lot of arguments with guys like, it's not on your plans for me to do this. I'm like, yes, but it's right here in your approved submittal that you need to do it. You even submitted on it that you're gonna do it. And
Yeah.
just getting in heated arguments over that of the hierarchy of drawings and what needs to go and where it needs to go. That's usually where I get a lot of arguments, especially with some unexperienced trades and stuff like that. That I have to sit down and try my best not to yell and scream and but it happens. It's the nature of the business sometimes and you try to be respectful and stern as much as you can. And I like to give guys 2 or 3 chances anyways of me being respectful and stern before I'm finally like, okay, look, you need to come here right now. We're going to have a conversation. But yeah, it happens.
Yeah. More often than it should, right? Patrick Lencioni warned us about that. Is once you start to develop that level of trust, now you have to introduce healthy conflict because then people can shake out where they are. They can
Hmm.
start making commitments that you can hold each other accountable for results. And yeah, so by no means are we saying shy away from those, but keep it on the healthy side. And there's a fine line between healthy and unhealthy.
Hmm.
Right? For me, I have this vein in my neck. When it starts popping out, it's a
Oh,
little unhealthy. Hoots. Like, calm
oh,
your
yeah.
ass.
Yeah, I turn red when I get hot and heated. Yeah, it's definitely seeable when I do it. But I like that you brought up healthy conflict. I can remember an instance on a past job. I just taught my superintendent lean, and I think it was 6 months in, and I walked into his job trailer just to check on him. And man, he's in a heated argument with our electrical superintendent, and he storms off and leaves. And it was probably like an hour before lunchtime, and like an hour later, the electrician comes back and says, "Hey, man, you want to go get lunch?" Like they're fine because it was a healthy
Yeah.
conflict. Like they had built that respect over the first 6 months of the project through daily huddles and just great communication that they could have those fist fights if they needed to. But like I said earlier, it's two brothers. They get in a fight and 20 minutes later they're fine and like, okay, let's go grab a beer, go get lunch, whatever.
It
So
almost draws you closer together in a way.
it does, and it's always fun because you can later on you can always make fun of each other for that. Like you yell stupid or whatever. You're not very good at you yelling. You're not intimidating or anything like that. I've seen that, and it is cool to see. I mean, having that healthy conflict, I think, is definitely something you got to have on the job site sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's what you do in the end that really matters. Are you apologizing, or are you guys having that mutual respect afterwards, or are you like completely shutting off? Those are two vast different things. And if the project's still going, you got to keep that relationship healthy and get it done. And someday, hopefully, you guys are doing another project together.
You mentioned you pick up lean in the 2000 early 2000s. What like where did you find it? What does it mean to you?
So found it when I first started, when I was still in the masonry business, actually, and I was a trade. And it was like one of the last years I was doing masonry, and I had a GC that was starting to do like daily huddles. That was all they were doing. I was like, man, they actually want to know what I'm doing, not just to get information, but like, how am I doing? How's the job going? What can I help you on? And that kind of got me started on it. And then when I came to the GC side, we were running daily huddles and like a modified pool plan. And I was like, man, everything's so much easier when it's visual. And I speak English, but with our, especially here in Texas, a lot of our workforce being Hispanic, English is a second language. And just pointing out on a schedule or whatever, a lot of those guys, especially the guys actually doing the work, they don't understand that. And if I can show them that visual board, whether it's a pool plan or a huddle or just even a floor plan, like you're working right here, or these guys are working right here. That's what really got me into it. And I'm not a Toyota guy, but reading about Toyota and how they started it. And here at Rudick, we do a lot of heavy manufacturing facilities and warehouses and stuff like that. And a lot of those guys run lean principles. And yeah, it's different than our industry, but just seeing that flow from A to B to C to D really helped me grow as a scheduler, as a superintendent, and even more so just as a person and showing mutual respect for anybody I come across.
Yeah, I love it. You mentioned your family having a big impact on you. Who else has helped to craft you to who you are today?
The first one, unfortunately, he passed away not too long ago, but his name was Ola Gustanzin, big Norwegian dude, like
Mm.
6'6", probably like 400 pounds, just huge. Thor reincarnated, I think, for a big guy, was literally a bear. But he was one of the first superintendents I worked for. And this dude was strong enough. I saw him get angry one time. He slammed his fist on a plastic table and split it in half. And I'm like, okay, that guy's mean. But he was also one of the first ones to teach me lean and was like that cuddly soft bear sometimes. And I just had a respect for people. His first question was like, how are you doing today? It was never like, why are you not over here working on this? Anytime I'd walk with him on the job site, he'd be one. And like I said, unfortunately, he passed away not too long ago. The second one would be a gentleman by the name of Al Severson that I worked for at a previous company. This guy was probably the best superintendent knowledge wise that I'd ever met in my life. And he's retired now too. But man, you want to talk about a guy that could see 10,000 steps ahead of him on a 4 year project. This guy was that guy. He was the one that taught me coming into the industry. If you're brand new assistant superintendent or a field engineer, I don't expect you to see 3 weeks out in front of you and know what's going to happen. I just need you to focus on today and what's going to happen today. And then as you grow in your career, like you need to expand that a little bit. And then lastly is just the owner of my company here, Clay Rudick. Like I said, when I came here, he had really given me a shot. I told him I just had my second daughter, and unfortunately, she was diagnosed at 2 weeks old with cystic fibrosis. It's a genetic lung disease. She's doing great though, but told him like, hey, I might be out from time to time for a day or two if she has hospital visits or anything like that. And he's really graceful, but also he's got that drive that's always 100%. Let me see you work. I'm going to push you. I'm going to push that gas pedal, and you're going to feel that stress, but it's like a rubber band. I'm going to stretch you out and then hold you there for 6 months or whatever, but you're going to feel that tension release a little bit and you're going to grow from it. And so he's just really helped me elevate from just being a superintendent or a senior superintendent to now being able to look at things as a vice president of operations and how to run teams, and just really helped me grow. But also let me spread my wings when I got here. Like I said, we didn't really have a ton of processes for the field. We had some, but it was a little bit Wild West when I got here. But running with lean, and then now we do it across all our jobs, and we're really seeing the benefit and everything is. But yeah, he'd probably be my third one that I'm really thankful for and has helped me grow as a person and in this industry.
Beautiful. So we're coming down to the end here. And I always like to just give the guests the final word wherever you want to take this thing, absolutely anywhere. What is your message to the world?
Man, my message to the world. That's a tough one, Adam. First off, just thanks for everybody that's taking a listen and everything. But at the end of the day, we're all just people. No matter what industry you're in, what profession you have, we're all just people. Have that ultimate respect for everyone. Tough conversations are going to happen, but like I said earlier, it's what you do at the end of that. Do you tell them I'm sorry? Do you, whatever it takes, grab a beer? Having that ultimate respect for people and that humility within yourself is key to staying true to who you are. Other than that, thanks everybody, and look forward to next time. Thanks.